Hi, Gene Burnett from GeneBurnett.com. Hey, I thought we'd talk a little bit today about how your training can train you, or at least how my training can train me. And maybe you'll find some value from it too. So I want to start again with the difference, talk a little bit about the difference between having a relaxed abdomen and emptying whatever tension you have everywhere but the leg you're standing on. So if you were balanced on one leg, you would be standing on that leg and everything would be as relaxed as it possibly could be, except whatever tension is needed to hold your balance and be on that leg, or in a given stance, like if you're doing Tai Chi or whatever. The difference between that and having an engaged core and maintaining a firmer overall sense of connection and structure in your body. So the former, which is that completely relaxed abdomen and just enough energy to hold you up, seems like it's good for connections and to study that, and relaxation is always a good thing. And it's good as far as it goes, and maybe, who knows, maybe there is some magical power level or power layer that you can reach if you relax enough or empty enough or let go enough or whatever you're supposed to do to get there. Personally, I'm not really interested in magical or special powers. I'm interested in having an in-body experience while I'm here. Animate matter is not that common in our solar system, and I want to get that experience. I want to have that experience, and I don't want to transcend or enlighten my way out of being, in my body. So for me, it's the latter one, the engaged core and maintaining a firmer sense of overall structure, that's really helping me with balance and fitness as I get older. It steadies and it focuses my connection between my intent and my physical resources. It gives me tools involving delivering momentum and dealing with momentum that no amount of relaxation has ever done for me. As much as I study relaxation, and when I'm doing my Tai Chi, I try to relax and settle particularly my shoulders and upper body, but I'm maintaining more of a firmer sense of cords and letting that go and letting that soften. A lot of the people that tout special powers and special things, a lot of them who are touting endless relaxation, they don't look very strong to me. They look kind of fat, honestly, out of shape, not fine specimens of human athletic prowess or anything, but they talk a good game with all their subtle parlor tricks and stuff, but they just don't look healthy. They don't look healthy to me, and I'm interested in being healthy. So these tools that I'm developing by having this little firmer structure and core engagement and doing these various forms and drills and stuff, they really help me with delivering and receiving momentum. And those tools are martial, but they're also very useful in everyday life, in the physics of everyday life, which in a sense is a martial situation. I mean, if you were raised on a planet that had milder gravitational field and came to Earth, you'd feel like someone was pressing on you and pushing you into the ground all the time, constantly pushing you into the ground. So you'd feel like, standing up straight would be a martial act, which is how I feel it. So as we age, we become more likely to lose our balance. And when we lose our balance, we're more likely to be injured. And if we do get injured, we're more likely to recover more slowly. And so these tools are important to me in terms of maintaining my balance, right? So here's the thing, though. The tools themselves need maintenance or they start to degrade. So the tools that you train actually train you back, or the tools that I train have trained me back, if you can kind of see it that way. For example, I developed the ability to stand on one leg for a minute on each leg, let's say. So let's suppose I do that, and then I develop the ability to do that while I move my other limbs around. And then I developed my abilities to do that with joint suspension alone. In other words, moving my limbs around with my legs and core, but not my arms. And I can do some Tai Chi kicks while I stand on one leg. So those are things that I can do with one leg balance. So let me just show you what I'm saying here. Just a quick example. I'm going to get back over here. I think I'm in camera. Let me maybe turn up the light a little bit. Okay. So, standing on one leg. Now, I can stand on one leg with a relaxed abdomen. I've done videos about this. I can just release all tension except for what's necessary to hold up my leg. But I'm talking about lifting my heart, lifting the back of my head, tucking my hips, engaging my core, and keeping a firmer sense of structure all the way around my body. So, there's balancing on one leg. I'm just going to switch to the other leg now. Balancing on the other leg, which is my weaker ankle, so it requires a little more attention. As I get older, that ankle, it's got more miles on it, so I've got to pay more attention to those stabilizer muscles around that ankle. It was badly sprained when I was young, and it's never fully recovered, which bad sprains often don't. So there's just one leg balance, right? Now I can do that same balance. I'm sitting into my legs, tucking into my hips, engage core, lift my heart, lift my head. I can move my limbs around while I do that. So I'm standing on that one leg, and I can experiment and play with different ways of holding my limbs, and it requires a different, like little, different muscles to be recruited and engaged to keep my balance while I do that. So that's one leg balance with the arms moving around independently. Now I can also do one leg balance with suspended joints, so that my movement is determined by this leg I'm standing on and my waist core. So if I want my hand to go up, I have to use my leg to send it up there. If I want it to go down, I have to use my leg. If I want it to go sideways, I have to use my waist. So that's a different kind of moving of the limbs. It's coming from the leg I'm standing on, from the core here, while I'm moving the leg that way. So that's another way I can put a little more pressure on the balance and go a little further. Or I can kind of sit into my leg, I can engage the core, heart and head, and I can do some Tai Chi kicks while staying on that same one leg. So I can get over here, and I can do this, and I can do that, and I can do this, and I can turn and kick that way. Or I can step here and come here and do that and come back. And, I can do various Tai Chi type movements while I'm standing on that one leg. Hope you can still hear that and see it. So, all these things give me tools like strong legs, good upper body connections, good balance, etc. But as I try to maintain those qualities over time, I find that I really have to stay on and address the areas where I'm weakening or losing ground in some way. Balance is not an achievement. Your Tai Chi prowess, whatever it is, it's not an achievement in the sense that once you've got it, you've got it. It needs maintenance, and that maintenance is a process that will train you and keep you on your toes and keep you healthy. So as I maintain standing on one leg, for instance, over time, I find that the job changes. Different muscles have to be firmed or let go of. Different connections have to be kind of forged. I can't count on that youthful fascia that I used to hold it all together for me anymore. So my muscles come into play in a different way, at least mine did. So I'm using the Tai Chi system to pressure test different aspects of my balance so that I can maintain these tools, and these tools in turn can help maintain me. Because, for instance, one thing I noticed when I was working on my balance and working on my posture as I got older, that I noticed that my kicks, I was getting a little unstable in my ankles, particularly my right one. So I thought, well, I better do things to stabilize that. So I had a wobble board, and so I started working on the wobble board, but then I kind of needed something a little more interesting to keep me on the wobble board longer. So I started throwing cards into a hat while I was on the wobble board, which is now one of my practices. But being on there, like, really helped me think about my posture more. And so as I started working on my kicks from there, I started noticing that it really helped if I really sat into my legs and engaged the core. But really, I didn't engage the core at first. I mostly just worked on lifting my spine. Anytime I do a thumbs up, it's going to give that little thumbs up thing. It's just the way it is. If I do two of them, I get a little party. Oh no, I forgot fireworks, sorry. If I do a peace sign, do I get a peace sign? Do I get a little party when I do the peace? Yeah, there we go. So it's just, I don't know where it comes from, but it's in my computer now. So anyway, so I noticed that in order to lift my spine, it really helped if I was also sitting into my legs like I was riding a horse, not a deep horse stance, but like a shallow horse stance, and then sat into my hip crease and tucked my hips. I've done videos about this. Horse, hips, and then lift the heart. And that lift is basically a spinal muscles that lift your chest. It's the back muscles contracting. So I found that as I get older, the vertebrae degenerate a little bit, and you start to get a little shorter. I'm 66, soon to be 67. So like that was happening. So you have to use your spinal muscles to actually lift and counter that. And I found that doing that really involved engaging my core as well. So I had sort of a base to lift from. And so all these things were kind of related. And I realized just from noticing that little instability in my ankle, it led over this course of about a year or two into a lot of posture study. And so, that sort of core engaged, firm structure, ready to pounce quality, it's more valuable to me than supraphysics or whatever, even if it's real. I mean, I don't think the world needs more esoteric disciplines that take 30 years to perfect. I think the world needs help with balance, and starting with just getting to our cars without face planting in the driveway. So when people have physical balance, they tend to be more balanced generally. And I think this is because developing physical balance involves self-study. And if you're studying something, you succeed in that study, it's going to be inside and out. You got to look at everything when it comes to balance. Try it. Try standing on one leg for a minute, on each leg, and then make it more and more difficult. Close your eyes. Work with weights. Move your hands around. Try to do it with suspended joints. Do 5 Tai Chi kicks in a row without putting your foot down. All those kind of things stress your balance, and they stress the qualities that you need to maintain it. So if I just rest on my laurels and say, oh, I know how to do this form, I can do this, it's very relaxing, I'm not going to be noticing the changes that are happening in my body as I get older. I'm not really putting pressure. Pressure is about finding weaknesses. So if I put that pressure on my balance, then that starts to train me. It gives me information back at me, and feedback back at me, like, oh, this isn't firm anymore. This or that has gotten a little bit weaker. Because as we get older, we lose muscle mass, you can get weaker, you can get less steady, but these are physical things that actually happen and that can be countered. Maybe not completely countered, but at least somewhat countered. So why not counter them a little bit if you can? So my point here is that if you pressure test your abilities and keep on it so that you don't just maintain or have a kind of a achievement sense about your balance, and instead think of it as a work in progress, and stress the areas that are weakening, or discover them by putting pressure on them, you can actually use those exercises to train yourself. The work trains you, and then you train and you do more work, and then the work trains you when you look at it and you reflect back on how it's doing. So yeah, it's really a nice practice that I don't think any amount of relaxation is really going to give you. It's not a question of just relaxing and settling down and using as little effort as possible. If you use as little effort as possible all day long, you are not going to be fit. To be fit and happy and healthy, you need to be working. It's sad to say, work is essential to human bodies. If you don't work them, they get unhealthy. You want to be healthy, you got to do the work. That's all I can tell you. So What I like to do is pressure that work and let it train me, let it determine where I go next in my training, because as things weaken and start to shift and happen in the aging process, I want to notice them as they're happening, and I want to shore them up as best I can. So for me, that doesn't involve just relaxation, not even relaxing into decent okay posture. It means engaging my core and keeping my muscles and joints slightly firmer and ready to act, ready to move, ready to do stuff, not in the bottom of a hammock, completely relaxed. It's a kind of alert readiness in the body, and maintaining that over time is a self-study. It's not something you get and then forget about. So don't forget about your balance. Maintain it. Pressure test it. Find your weaknesses. Go directly where you're weak and shaky. Firm that up till it's not, and then go on to something else, right? A quick example. Sorry, I'm talking my ass off here, but I have these body blades. These things. Sit here sideways and do one. They're a graphite bar, and they wiggle top and bottom like that. And when you do that, you have to push and pull back and forth rapidly in a kind of an isometric vibration. And they really work to stabilize your arm and shoulder and your connection from that arm to the core. And just recently, I hadn't worked with them for a long time. I picked them up and I went to my left hand, my left arm, and I started to do that. And it was like really, it was awkward. And I do a lot of left-handed stuff. And I realized that in terms of stability, it wasn't that stable. Whereas on this arm, I can do it in a way that makes it look like it's just my mind. I'm hardly moving my arm at all. You can see it's a very small motion, but I'm applying more and more pressure, more and more counter pressure to the swing of the weights at the end of this bar, so that I have to stabilize that. So my whole body is, I don't know if you can see the effort, but my whole body is efforting slightly isometrically to make that happen. So I've been just teaching myself night after night, picking up the other one and trying to get that one as stable too. And feeling how does the left, like the left side, it's typically a helper, not a doer. And my right side is typically the doer, not the helper. So it's maybe a little harder for my right arm to relax, but harder for my left arm to be firm. So I'm standing here, and I do this in all different positions and all different, or angles to my body. But the point is that I found that it had gotten unstable and kind of weak. And so I've been firming that up so that it can be as firm and as solid as my right side. Doesn't look like much, but this is hard, folks. This is not easy. This is making me do this, and I'm stabilizing against that. You can see it in my arm, perhaps. I don't know if it's visible how much work that is. It's not a tremendous amount of work, but it is definitely work, and it's stabilizing work. So you're trying to stabilize that motion and have it not be like crazy whopping around like that. So that's just an example. Like when I noticed my left arm was less stable, I started working it more and more and more. And now I work it like literally every night. I want this connection here to be firm and solid in here, not my weak arm, I don't want it to be, I want it to be able to take over doing things if it needs to, or helping also if it needs to. So that's what I work on. So that trains me. I look at that and I go, hey, I've got to shore this up, and then I do, and then I've got it, and then I train it and I develop that strength, and then I do something else. I put some different pressure on it, and I find ways in which I'm slipping. So I recommend pressure testing, and I recommend letting the things you've trained train you back. And the way you do that is pressure test it and keep on it. Keep on it. Don't. It's not enough to know how to do something or to do it well. You have to be doing it. If you want the benefits from it, you have to be doing it regularly. You have to work to be healthy. There's just no way around it. So if you want optimal range of motion, you got to be working your range of motion. You want leg strength, you got to put weight on your legs. You want good posture, you got to work on it. So that's my roundabout way of saying all that. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. You can visit GeneBurnett.com for information about me and my martial arts and musical life. And you can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you like this kind of crazy thing. And we'll see you down the line.